sticky toffee pudding has to be up there as the number one go-to dessert. For me, over the years, I've created many times in the restaurants, and it's so popular, so delicious, and so comforting. In fact, the recipe, it was a recipe I got from a chef I worked with in Glasgow quite a number of years ago now, and I've just tweaked it myself just to make it what it is today. So I thought I want to showcase this recipe with you all to show how simple and easy and tasty it is. In the bowl, first of all, I've got some good quality dates. They're lovely, they're sticky. You can just see that, how lovely they are. You can get other dates out there which are already chopped and maybe a bit cheaper, but I want to start this recipe with good quality ingredients. And this is what's going to keep our sponge as moist as possible. In the bowl, I've got 250 grams of dates. To that, I'm going to add 2 tea bags, followed by 2 teaspoons of instant coffee, already with building up the flavour profiles of this pudding. Vanilla, 1 teaspoon of this vanilla paste is equivalent to 1 vanilla pod. You could scrape the vanilla pod out and use it, reserve the pod itself, just use the seeds, but this is just for ease today. To the bowl, 250 ml of boiling water. Just give that a little sugar and make sure everything is just going to get soaked. There we have it. And we'll just leave that to infuse until it's cold, and we'll get back to that shortly. Next, while the dates are cooling, I've got 100 grams of stork margarine in here. It's nice and soft. And I like using stork margarine in here instead of butter. It just gives a better finishing result to the sponge itself. To that, I'm going to add 150 of soft brown sugar. Again, this is for flavour. You could use caster sugar, but this just offers more of a depth to the sponge. If you like more a moody kind of pudding, you could go a darker sugar as well. But this is what I meant about sort of tweaking the recipe a wee bit for different tastes and flavours. So this is the happy medium of sugars. So we just want to get that going in the bowl. And we want to cream it until it's light and pale. So after about a couple of minutes now, you can see the colour change. Now you could do this in a electric mixer, but I really like to do this by hand, this whole recipe, to give it the gentler touch, and you'll see that as the stages go on. Next, I have 250 grams of self-raising flour and 1 teaspoon of bicarbonated soda. Now the bicarb itself is what's going to give this pudding even more of a rise. Into our bowl. And just serve that to mix them both together. So now we've got the flour and the bicarb sieved, we've got the sugar and the butter creamed. all we're waiting for now is for the dates to cool so we can whiz them up into a paste. So now the dates are nice and cool. They've been infused with our 2 tea bags, which I'm just going to remove and squeeze as much moisture and flavour out of that as possible. So the tea, the coffee and the vanilla infused dates. I'll pop them into the food processor. I know some recipes ask for maybe the dates to be boiled and mashed up or chopped up or just lightly pulsed. My theory is if they're blitzed to a puree and added to the sponge, they're not as noticeable, but just keeping our sponge as moist as possible. For those who say, I don't like dates. To a paste, in the sponge, not noticeable, lovely and tasty. My theory. So, quick blitz. Now bearing in mind as well, even though care has been taken to remove any stones, that sometimes you might get a stone that might clip the blade and start whizzing it about. A wee trick would be just to take a wee dish towel over the machine. I think we'll be fine. I'll scrape it down. And we'll continue blitzing for a couple of minutes. So that's our dates blitzed. We'll just set them aside. Now for our creamed butter and sugar. We'll take 3 large eggs and the flour. Again, usual rules apply when cracking eggs. We don't want to get this far and find that we've got a rogue egg. So into a ramekin, first of all, 1 egg. Now another wee trick I use for the sponges, even though I'm using a lighter sugar, I want it visually stunning as well. So for a bit more depth on the eyes, I'm going to add a teaspoon of gravy browning. It's basically just natural burnt sugar. So 1 teaspoon of gravy browning in there, followed by 1 tablespoon of flour. So we just want to beat this until it's nice and smooth. At this stage you might think, oh, it looks as if it's going to curdle. Don't worry about it. Continue on course. You can see the sponge is already beginning to form some form of body. Now at this stage, I want to come away with a wooden spoon. I'm now going to fold in the remaining flour and the dates. I'm using a nice sharp tool. If we're going with a blunt spoon, you're going to knock that air. When we're going to fold air into the mix, we'll be knocking it out. So we want to just fold in gently with our spatula. So flour in. Again, just be nice and gentle. Working that old-fashioned figure of 8 motion. And this is what I mean when I said earlier on about doing this by hand. I get more of an appreciation and a respect for the sponge. Just being gentle. Now when we get to about this stage, now I'm going to take just before we've incorporated all the flour, I want to take the dates. I want to continue folding. Until everything is evenly distributed. You can't see any more flour and everything's just come together. Now, just to put it back down. We could do individual molds, little dario molds. We could do a deep dish for family service, or we could take our foil trays, which I've just lightly greased and floured, and we're going to cook these in the foil trays, let them cool and freeze for another date. Great to have in the freezer whenever you wanted a pudding. It's up to yourselves. Given away as gifts, presents. Ideal for storing. So already, if you can see the mix, the bicarb is starting to react with the flour already. It's starting to sort of almost like rise and create the air pockets. So we want to be careful with our batter. I want to put that in nice and neat. I'm going to take it to about just under halfway. So there we have 4 sponges ready for the oven. Now I've got the oven set at 170 degrees and they're going to take about 12 to 15 minutes in the oven. So maybe after the 12-minute mark, take your knife or skewer into the centre and see if it comes out clean. For the toffee sauce, in my pan I've got 180 grams of salted butter which I've just melted. 180 grams of light soft brown sugar. I'll add that to it. And if you wanted more of a moody sauce with more depth, you can use a darker sugar. But again, same as the sponge, I'm going for the happy medium, which suits most tastes. So once the sugar's pretty much dissolved, we're going to add 350 ml of double cream. Just keep whisking until it all comes together. Just like that. And we're allowed to come up to simmer, and we'll simmer for 2 to 3 minutes to get that sauce consistency. So there we have now the sauce been simmering for a good 3 minutes. We'll just reserve that and leave it to cool. So now the puddings are out of the oven and they've cooled down. We're now going to take our sauce, which is also cold, and we're just going to pour it over as much as we can over the pudding. I'll take one of our lids and we can just seal the pudding. And like I said, that can be frozen, it can even be cooked or sort of reheated in the oven in the foil tray. Anytime you wanted a pudding, it's there for you. Fantastic for presents or given to family and friends. If you didn't have foil trays, if you wanted to showcase it a bit more, a nice family serving dish, middle of the table, or if you wanted to be a bit more chefy, individual moulds. I've got one here, and we'll just finish off with a generous amount of the toffee sauce. And any excess sauce left over can be frozen in foil trays as well, which is handy as well. It freezes really well. So there we have my classic sticky toffee pudding. Give it a whirl, I urge you. It's so simple, so tasty. Enjoy.